Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. It's been a while since I put a video up. Now you would have just seen the Friday night drift video from a long time ago, but back again now, and got the 34 behind me once again in a shot, which isn't usually a good thing because it means that more work's being done on it. So I've been having problems with my turbo. It still boosts perfectly fine, but under high boost it will blow some smoke out the back, and there is a fair bit of shaft play in the turbo. So I've actually bought the exact same turbo that I have, but in much better condition. So I'm going to be pulling this one out and swapping it with a replacement turbo. Obviously, like I was saying, much better condition and ready to bolt straight back in. It'll just be a pull one out, put another one back in. So should be reasonably easy, but it's probably going to be a big job. Still being low mount, there's a lot of stuff in the way, and it's going to become a big job. So just going to start ripping and tearing, and I'll bring you guys along and show you bits and pieces. Right off the bat, main things obviously that'll have to come out: pod filter and its mount. All this intercooler piping will have to come off, including all the blow-off valve piping. Got an O2 sensor that'll have to come out. Down pipe will have to come off. Vacuum lines, all different bits and pieces, but once we get to that, you guys will you'll be able to see. So I'm just going to get straight into it. It's currently Friday afternoon, Friday night, I think it's about 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get started on this and just try to knock it over tonight and get it all done. I've actually got a guy who watches the videos called Bryce, actually, who's got an RB20 that he's getting me to do a build on. First time someone's actually reached out and said, you know, look, I've seen you build your motor, I want to get mine built the same. So he's going to be dropping his motor off tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll be able to get the head off his motor tomorrow, but you'll be seeing that in the next video. So yeah, stay tuned for that one if you're into the RB20 and R32 kind of scene. But for now, we'll get started on this turbo, so see you guys in a sec. Alrighty, first thing we're going to do is just flathead screwdriver and pull the pod filter off. Nice easy place to start. And with these motors, you'll find when you start pulling things apart, you very quickly expose the turbo. There's not really a whole lot that has to come off these. It just looks like a lot, and there's going to be a few tedious things like water lines and oil lines that'll probably be a pain in my ass, but that is all good. Just going to keep pulling bits and pieces off. Obviously AFM has to come out, that turbo inlet pipe, so that'll probably be the next thing I pull off, and the intercooler piping over the top. This is the J pipe that I've pulled out. You can see all the hoses still attached. I'm trying to take off as much as possible in one go without having random hoses and clips all over the place. I also like to tighten up the clips that I've pulled off, just so they don't pop off and fall out and you can't find them anymore. So I found a bit of a problem with this, and I've been having the issue with the car where it's just been a really weird boosting problem, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is, but I didn't think much of it. And when I got this car, the coupe, when I got the shell and stopped the motor, I bought a block-off plate for the blow-off valve because, you know, hectic dose noises, and I put this block-off plate in at Power Cruise, which was only like 2 or 3 days after the car had been done. And after Power Cruise, put my normal one back in, happy days. I've just noticed pulling this out, that little hole there is meant to be, that bolt's meant to go through it. So I've had like a massive leak through there for who knows how long. So I'll be fixing that when it all goes back together, that's for sure. So I'll have to make sure to check that next time. Alright, I'm going to keep cracking on and pull off more intercooler piping. Those ones that you can see over the top there, they'll all pop out and should expose a lot more of the turbo. So AFM and its kind of mounting plate has come off now, and that's opened up a lot more room for us. Like I was saying, 2 hoses, they'll just pop out with hose clamps and get all of that on the ground, and it'll expose more of our turbo. Alright, so with all the intercooler piping out of the way, it's really opened up the bay a lot more. So there is, on the turbo there, you can just make out 3 bolts, kind of one there, one down there, and one over there. Those 3 bolts pop off, and then that whole elbow piece comes out, and once the elbow piece is out of the way, Then you can get to the bolt for this silicon piece, and then all of that comes off. This all comes off as one piece. Happy days, all comes out, and then we can get to our turbo bolts and pull the downpipe off and yeah, have some fun with it. Alrighty, so we've got that elbow bend piece out of the way, and now you should just be able to make out down next to the Nissan logo there another bolt, and that'll pull this piece off, and all this venting system connects to the rocker cover. That'll all come off as one big piece, and then that's pretty much the whole front corner all exposed. And then from there I need to decide if I want to pull the manifold off or if I'm going to try pull the turbo off in place. So we'll have to wait and see, but definitely pulling that dump pipe off. 6 bolts or 5 bolts all around there, 21mm to get the O2 sensor out, and yeah, should be good. Alrighty, so I've now got the car up on jack stands, so I'm going to slide underneath and undo the O2 sensor. Luckily for me, I was actually able to get to all of the nuts and bolts that hold in the dump pipe from the top, so that'll save a lot of time putting it all back together. But for now, crawl underneath, undo that O2 sensor, and then undo the 2-bolt flange for the dump, and then that can slide right out of the way, give us a lot more room behind the turbo, and then can start pulling the lines off it. So we have our dump pipe out now, which is a big part out of the way. So now that's opened up the back end of the turbo completely, and from down there on the ground I should be able to get up from underneath and undo all the bolts for the lines. While I'm at this stage, I'm probably going to go ahead and drain the engine oil out, because there will be a bit leaking out anyway, and since I'm changing it, may as well do it while the car's up in the air. So drain all the oil out, and when I get to it I'll pull the oil filter off as well, change all that, get all that sorted. But for now, these tabs that go around the turbo nuts, they pop off, so they're there to actually stop the nuts from unwinding themselves. So just peel those back on all 4 nuts. They'll all come off, look like they're a 17mm or something similar, and then got to pull off all the lines that run to the turbo, and should be happy days. Alright, so I've got all of the lines undone, so oil feed, oil drain, coolant feed and coolant drain, all 4 of those are off. Next thing I'll be doing is undoing the 4 nuts that hold the turbo to the manifold, and then all should pull out as one piece. Alrighty, that is our turbo out. We've just left all the lines just kind of chilling in there, and we pulled it out towards the front through this massive gaping hole, and there she is. Tiny baby turbo.
Oh my god, let me do the wiggle wiggle.
So I don't know how well you can hear it. I don't know if you could hear it earlier, but there's a lot of play front to back, so.
Nissan.
Listen. So, I'm gonna go get the other one that we've got, make sure it's the same or close enough, and then chuck it in. Alrighty, so here is our new second-hand turbo, and I've just gone ahead and pretty much pulled off all the old bits that I didn't need. So it had like the top half of the dump pipe that I wasn't going to be needing, and I've also swapped over the wastegate actuators just because my one's been set properly, so I've put that back on, swapped those over, pulled off the top little inlet elbow, so had a spare one of those attached, so plenty of spare bits, so I'll be able to keep some extra stuff lying around. Last little thing I want to do before I do anything with it is just chase all the threads with the bolts, just because there's a bit of old coolant in there, so I want to make sure that everything threads in nicely, and then from there we'll put it in the car and bolt everything back up. Alright, so update and some good news. The turbo is fully mounted up, so mounted to the manifold, all 4 of those bolts are tight, and I've re-flipped over those lock tabs. All the lines running to the turbo are all on and tight as well. Wastegate's obviously on and all tight. Next thing I'm going to do from here is put the dump pipe back on, obviously screw the O2 sensor back in and the 2-bolt flange down underneath the car to the cat. And then it's just piecing back all the little bits and pieces on the front here, so within the next hour or so this should be all done. So dump pipes all fully mounted, O2 sensors back in place. I'm going to crawl back underneath and sort out the 2-bolt flange, and then it's back up to the top to fill in this missing space down here with all the leftover bits and pieces that I have. So just pretty much intercooler piping, and then it's all back together and all pretty much good to go. And just like that, everything is all back together. Just been through and checked all the hose clamps, made sure everything's tight, reconnected all the vacuum lines, which there was a fair few of because I still use the factory crossover pipe, but all back together now. I think it's about 11 o'clock, so been at it for quite a while now. Gonna head off to bed with pretty much everything done. I'll quickly do my oil filter just so I don't have to worry about getting covered in oil tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning it'll just be fill the car up with oil, fill the car up with coolant, and then bleed everything up, and in theory should be all good to go now and have turbo that doesn't smoke. So I'll see you guys in the morning. So it is the next morning and just waking the dogs up, and they want to play already, so it's great. It's about 8 o'clock at the moment. Got to bed at probably midnight last night. Had a bit of a late one on the car, but got to do what you got to do, I guess. So today I'm just going to be putting the oil back in the car. Yesterday I did the oil filter and all that kind of stuff just so all the dirty work was done. I didn't have to worry about it first thing this morning. So yeah, got all that stuff done. I'll put some oil in. I've got some coolant there to put in. I've got about half as much as I actually need, so I'll put half in, and then gonna have to do a quick run down to Super Cheap, grab another 5 litres, and I'm probably gonna grab a little 1 litre container as well, just to keep in the back of the car. Always good to keep some spare stuff, so that's all well and good. And for anyone who's wondering what kind of fluids I use in the car, I'll just do a quick rundown. So right off the bat I use Ryco oil filter. I can't remember exactly which one it is. I believe it's a 442 or something similar. And for my oil I always use Penrite 1010 Racing 10W40. Always just found it to be the best oil for me, and it's always been what I've gone with, so that's what I go with. Same with coolant, I use Penrite as well. I've always used premix. I just find it easier just knowing that the ratio is bang on. I don't have to worry about playing with concentrate, and it's easy to go to any store and just grab some Penrite premix. So that one's a little bit beat up because it's been in the back of my car. It's getting thrown around a bit, so I've got probably 2.5, maybe 2 litres in there. Then I'll have to run down and get another 5 litre container of that, and like I was saying, an extra litre to chuck in the car just as spare. This car being the RB25 DET Neo, I usually use about 4.8 litres and have the tiniest bit left in the container, and that should put me bang on full after the car's been started and the oil filter's full. So we'll chuck all that stuff in now. First thing first, I'll lower the car down obviously so I can get a good reading on the dipstick, and yeah, we'll get some fluids in this bad boy. So just made a quick run down to Super Cheap and got another 5 litres plus a little 1 litre of coolant premix. So that one will go in the back of my car just in case I ever need the coolant. It's there, and it's much easier storing that in the back rather than having one of these big ones that's only got a litre left. Little funnel, put some oil and coolant in without making a mess, and tin of degreaser always comes in handy. So I've put in about 3 litres of coolant so far. I'll use that other 5 litre and then top it up as much as I can, and run it up from there. Hopefully it won't need a full rebleed, but probably will, because majority of the coolant came out from that turbo. I think about 6 litres came out. I think these take 8 or 9. So top it up and see what happens, and then chuck the oil in as well. And then what I'm going to do is disconnect the coil pack harness and then just crank the car over a few times just till it builds up some oil pressure, and then should be all happy days. Just make sure the turbo's all primed so I don't run it dry, and should be all good. So as I mentioned, because the turbo's new, I want to get some oil feeding through it. So I've disconnected the spark plug harness, well, coil pack harness, so the car won't run, it'll just keep cranking and building up pressure. And what I'm waiting for inside the car as I crank is just making sure that the pressure comes up, oil pressure light goes out. Once that's all good, then I'll come down and I've got direct access to the oil feed line, so I'll just crack that and do one more test and just make sure that oil is definitely coming out. You can just see the bolt just down there, so I'll crack that, make sure oil is definitely coming out so the turbo is being oiled, then from there reconnect the harness and car should start up no worries and won't do any damage to the turbo. So had a few weird noises when everything started up. Went for a bit of a drive, rechecked the coolant, everything's all looking good now. Turbo's a little bit noisier than the last one, spool's a bit louder, and has kind of like a de-spool noise when the car turns off, you hear it spooling down. Doesn't seem to be anything to worry about, is boosting perfectly fine. Yeah, so all well and good. Thanks for watching this video guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
You say you wanna come